Hello everybody, this is JRChunks21. I thought I'd upload my first video into the Pokemon PokeTuber sector. Like Yu-Gi-Oh!, I've played Pokemon for a long time, so I've kind of gotten into it. So this is my top 5 Pokemon from the Gen 3 games, because those were some of my favorite games of all time. So we're going to start out with Shiny Rayquaza. As you can see, it's black, and I love the look of it. But the story behind this, and it's not a cop-out, is because when I was younger, when the games came out, I believe, in 6th grade, so I had heard rumors on the playground from some of the other kids that, hey, you know, you can get a Shiny Rayquaza in the game. And I'm like, well, that can't be right. They wouldn't make that Pokemon shiny. At that time, I had already encountered a shiny Pokemon before in the past, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this. So for quite a few months, I hunted for a shiny Rayquaza. Now, back in Gen 3, the odds were what they used to be, which is 1 in 8,192. So it was very odd. It took a long time of soft resetting to find it. When I finally found it, I had kept Shiny Rayquaza with me all the way up until Gen 6. When in Gen 6, I got Pokebank, and I wasn't sure if Pokebank deleted your Pokemon when it expired, when your time expired with it. So I transferred all of my Pokemon that I really couldn't risk losing, like Shiny Rayquaza, over to my Pokemon Y game, which was my storage game. And one day, I'm at school, and I hear from my sister that she had traded in my Pokemon Y to get her fiancé some games. And I was pissed. I had lost my Shiny Rayquaza that I had had since Gen 3 that I just loved to death. And since then, you know, I've missed some of the events to get another one, and I just have always loved it. It was one of my favorite Pokemon, and had I still had it, it was going to be my mascot for the channel. One of my mascots for the channel. So, that is why Shiny Rayquaza takes the #1 spot. And number 2 is Mudkip. And it's one of my favorite Pokemon, because I played through Gen 3 Pokemon Emerald numerous times, and Mudkip was one of my favorite starters. I had used all of them before. So, I remember at one point I was trying to level up one of my baby Pokemon, so I couldn't use it during the Elite Four, so I took Mudkip with me, and Mudkip just swept the Elite Four for me. It was clutch. It was my Swampert just was clutch in the match. It just swept the whole Elite Four, and it was one of my favorite Pokemon, and it still is. Now, next you've got Torkoal, number 3 slot. And my reason for liking him and my number 5 slot, Seviper, is because Torkoal and Seviper are reptilian-based Pokemon. And since I was little, all the way up until now even, I have loved reptiles. They've been some of my favorite animals in the world, and I've always had a animal-type Pokemon on my team. Even now in Gen 7, when I finally got into the competitive scene, I have a Caracosta on my team that I bred and trained to be one of my team members. So, in Gen 3, I loved Torkoal to death. It was one of my favorite Pokemon. I used it all the time, and much like Seviper, it was just one of my favorites, and I had always used it. Even to this day, I love reptiles. So next we're going to go to Salamence, and this is probably a cop-out to many of you because a lot of people like Salamence. Now, I liked it because when I found out where Bagon was, I traveled and I hunted for 2 or 3 days to find a Bagon. And when I caught it, I trained it up to a Shogun, and I kept training it all the way up to a Flygon. And when I finally got Shogun into a Salamence. And when I finally got a Salamence, I took it and I transferred it over to my Diamond and Pearl games. and it was one of my all-time favorite Pokemon. I think that comes from, the Pokemon movie where the artificial Groudon is created. There's a Salamence there, and there's a bad guy in the Pokemon anime from back in the day that used the Salamence all the time, and I loved it. I loved Salamance's cool design and how it looked. I love its Mega as well. And finally, Seviper. As you can see, Seviper, I kind of explained why I liked it, but I think Seviper is just a really cool Pokemon. I wish it got better credit and was used more in the competitive scene. It is one of my favorite Pokemon. So this has been my first Pokemon video. I'd like to know your opinions on which generation of favorite Pokemon you'd like me to do next. Would you prefer me to use would you prefer Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4, 5, 6, 7? Would you like to see my competitive or a top 10 or top 5 of my favorite legendaries? It's up to you guys what you would like. So this has been JR Channels 21 signing off. I would also like to mention that more videos will likely be uploaded closer to the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right around that time. Probably around midnight, sometime after 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If it turns out that people like the Pokemon videos more than the YouTube videos, then it will likely be more of a Pokemon channel. Again, this has been JR Channels 21 signing off. Like, share, subscribe.